Welcome everybody. Today's video finds us over here in Ayutthaya, and where we're at is we're just south of the main city island. We're along one of the old canals that probably was like a bypass for the Chao Phraya River down here, and it was a huge canal with a lot of temples and everything else built along the way. And what we're going to take a look at is we're going to take a look at Wat Tawet, which is the temple of the guardian spirit, and Wat Tha Hoi, which is the landing of the shellfish. Anyway, this is a historical site that dates back to at least the 1650s. It was the residence of King Narai's daughter at this Wat Tawet, and the other one is on the other side of the canal. So we'll walk through both of them. I'll try to break out my drone later, and we'll kind of see what we see there. Planning a trip is always stressful, but Yesem takes one of the stresses out. Open the Apple Store or the Google Store, search for Yesem, install the app, and then you can search your plans. They have regional, they have country specific, or they have worldwide, and you can have pay-as-you-go plans as well. Installing the app is super easy. First-time users use the code ENDLESS25 with a capital E, and it will save you up to 20%. It takes about 3 minutes. Just follow the simple instructions. You can activate the plan immediately or upon arrival. Then all you simply do is open up the settings, turn your line off, turn Yesem on. You can check your balance at any time through the app. And then when you're at the airport, just simply walk by all of the eSIMs and enjoy your holiday. Right here that you see, right here in the middle of the two sides of the road, that was the old canal. And the canal was quite wide. It actually went way over here past those rails, and it's kind of been filled back in with sediment and everything else. Wat Tha Hoi is over there. That's the landing of the shellfish temple. And then Wat Tawet is back over here. Yeah, this is kind of a very rural part of Thailand. It gets rural very fast when you leave the city. It's just me out here with some cows. There's cows all through here. And then we have one of the locals over here with his goats that's letting them graze over here. Yeah, so the cows are just milling about, grazing this down. So if you come out here, this is not very well maintained. So the farmer that pushes these cows in here actually is doing a service to kind of keep these vines and everything else down. So this is the site. It's actually quite large. The one on the other side of the road in canal is quite a bit bigger. It's like 140 meters deep away from the canal. Now, if you keep going down that way, there's at least 3 more ruined temples that are abandoned down over there. But these are kind of the highlight here along this canal. And this right here would have been a small building. It would have been quite narrow, and they say it had a wooden roof. So it was maybe like a refuge or something. I'm not sure what the function of it was. And then over here, this is the main hall with the chetty. You can see we got just cows all over the place here, and the birds hanging out getting a free meal from the bugs that the cow stirs up. So this was the way that you would have came in. So back in the old days, they used the canals as the roads. So the landing was right there, and then you would have came down this walkway right into the main hall that's right here. Now, they excavated it in 2015, but they did not restore the building. And then you can see the highlight is right over there in the trees. And then right over here, this is the landing. I'll show you it right now. It's actually holding water. I've never seen water in it before. Yeah, so right here is the landing for the ferry. So the canal would have been this wide, and you can see it's, I don't know, 5 or 6 meters away from the side of the road, and it would have went over that away, probably the same distance. And this is actually 3 meters below the road now. So the sediment has really built up here. Okay, so when you come here, you wear some good shoes, because you got all these like thorny vines here, and they will cut you. And be mindful, there might be a snake out here. And there's actually a little data plate right here. So it talks right here. So this was assumed to be the residence of Chao Pha Krom Luang Ta Tip. That was King Narai's daughter. And they see King Narai as one of the great kings. He did a lot of trade, especially with Europe. He actually sent emissaries to France. There was some Siamese ambassadors that went there under King Louis XIV's reign. So the styling you see over here will actually point towards that whenever we get over to that main building. Yeah, so you can see the cow over here eyeing me for a free meal. Got the rope through there. And then there's more over there in the trees. Okay, so this is the main structure. So this is kind of cool. This would have been kind of oval shaped. I'm not sure what that would have been. I don't know if it would have been a chetty or what. And then it would have led into the main ubasot right here, or the ordination hall. And you can see here they would have had a porch that would have went around the building, and then would have had kind of a sloped roof, and then the entrance right here in the middle. Yeah, they never came back and restored this. They just left it down to the base like you see. There's so many of these old sites that it's impossible to restore them all into like a serviceable shape. So most of them they excavate, they look for any important things, and then they just leave it like this. And you can see the round columns. Now the later Ayutthaya, they always did like an octagonal, or not always, but that was kind of the common thing. And then here are the Buddha images. And you see how the heads are gone? That was looters that came in here searching for treasure. It's a pretty common thing that you see where they cut their heads off. And right here, though, would have been the chetty. Now, they don't know exactly the styling of it. It's octagonal base. They presume it was a Mon-style chetty because they found some artifacts here that kind of point to it being like a Mon-influenced building. And then over there, that is like a late Ayutthaya Wehan. And then we got some more cows. Yeah, you see the body parts. You got the hands and the legs. And over here is kind of the legs with a little bit of the body. And then you can see how the Buddha was constructed with some brick and some plaster. And then the sandstone body. Okay, let's go look at that little Wehan, then we'll look at the main hall here. And then you see the perimeter wall that would have been around here. And it's just down to the base. You actually still have the steps, but there is no wall. You got a little bit of the walkway, and it's kind of overgrown. And then this one here would have been kind of shaped a little bit like a boat. And it would have had load-bearing walls. The other one had columns in the middle to support the weight, so it would have been older. And then they built this one here where the walls were load-bearing, which was more of a Western style. That came in the late Ayutthaya. And then here would have been the platform for the Buddha. Yeah, not much else to see. If you want to see some cows, I guess, come over here and hang out with these guys. Yeah, this building would have been 4.5 meters wide by 14 meters long. You can see they would have had the two small Buddhas here, and there's a piece of sandstone over there. Then they would have had a bigger one in the back. And there's still just a little bit of the plaster, all of that on the pedestal. Okay, let's go look at this building over here now. There would have been chetties and other buildings all out here. And the kutis, the monk quarters, would have probably been over here, kind of where that fence line is at. Traditionally, the monk quarters were south of the main buildings in the Ayutthaya era. Now over here, this is the important building. This is the residence of King Narai's daughter. And the important part of it is the stucco work right up here. And you see here, this would have actually allowed the princess to come right here into the hall. And then over to the left is all the servant quarters. So here, this is actually Greek styling, which was popular in the reign of King Louis XIV. You have those vines, and then there's some birds up there that's Thai style, where they're carrying something in their beaks. And then you see this here on the side.
this is what's kind of cool, is this is a European guy wearing kind of that fluffy collared shirt, and it was all around the outside. So it's a mix of European with Thai. And then here you see the lotus bud doorway arches. That was also like styling a King Narai. And then this one here's a traditional arch, which is kind of cool. And then this would have had a building coming across. You see the holes right there in the bricks. That would have brought you, or allowed another building to come off of it. And this would have been the front of it. And then there's more over here. So this would have been more of the compound here for the princess. This would have been kitchens and bathrooms and servant quarters and everything else. And then here's part of the wall. And then there's a humongous tree growing right here in it now in the middle. But you can see the inside of the wall, how thick the walls were. And then they had plaster work here. And they came back in, they restored that. You see that wood is pretty new. And then there's nooks up there for Buddha images. That would have been fantastic. Now, if you remember my video of the Kam Tam Palace that's up in Ong Tong, the styling of this is pretty similar. It's kind of cool. But you could actually walk up on the second floor here and walk out a little bit. Yeah, you can see the plaster over that brick and mortar, and then it would have went up there. Yeah, this would have been really something to see. Yeah, the King Narai Palace in Lopburi, there's two of them. The main one is a museum now, and it's definitely worth your time if you're over in Lopburi to see. And the other one's just north of town. It was kind of his hunting lodge, and it's also kind of cool. I've been there a few times. Okay, so let's cross over the river, or the canal, and then we'll look at the Wat Tha Hoi, or the landing of the shellfish. Now, King Narai, his reign was interesting. He sent emissaries off to France and everything, and he was kind of influenced a lot by the Europeans as well as the Persians, and he did a lot of trade with both parties. The Europeans wanted to convert him to Christianity, and the Persians wanted to convert him to Islam. So there was kind of some rival factions, and then he was left without an heir. He had two brothers, and there was kind of some stories I've been reading about. There was, like, at the end of his reign, he was trying to find a successor, and he tried to get his brothers involved, but I don't know, there was a lot of internal fighting with it, and I think he imprisoned them and some other things that happened. So anyway, he was left without an heir at the end, but he had daughters here. Okay, so you can see a farmer, he's going over there. You got all the birds with the cows. All right, so we're over here at the other temple now. You can see it has all kinds of buildings, but all of them are down to the base. It's still in a pretty primitive state. So we'll look at it. You can see that this would have been a really, really large temple, so it would have been pretty important back in the day. And all of this was abandoned and left out here to the jungle after the fall of Ayutthaya in 1767. You can see the landing also. So just right over there by that bird is the end of the walkway. So the Lopburi River really was, or the Chao Phraya was large here. And then this walkway goes the full length of the temple. It goes back 140 meters. And then this is the main structure here. So it looks like there would have been chetties and everything else here. This is the top of a chetty. And over there would have been another chetty and some smaller ones here. And in this hall, so it's just up to below the window level. And there would have been another structure over here probably. This is a large platform. And this would have been facing, the Buddha would have been facing the west. So the Buddha traditionally is facing the east, the morning sun. But whenever Buddha was achieving enlightenment, he was facing water. So this could also, the Buddha images can face water. So it's up to the design of the temple. So this would have been facing the canal, which would have been the offshoot of the Lopburi River. And these are kind of cool. You see they've rounded these, so they would have been square, with rounded corners. And it's hard to say what the styling of this building would have been like. It's just what you see here. A little Buddha here sitting on the pedestal is all we see. You can see a tree is overtaking the corner here. Yeah, there's not a whole lot more to see over here, just a few bricks laying around. This was all part of the restoration in 2015. There's a rope here from one of the farmers, and that was the walkway that came up from the landing. It's kind of interesting. There's these round structures, and I'm not sure what their function was. I don't know if it was where they had a well here, or if they made bricks here also. Some of the temples you go to, they have places like this where they made bricks to help with the construction, and there's several of them all around. Yeah, there's not a whole lot more to see here, just a little bit of the walkway, and then the base of some buildings. You got termite mounds and stuff like that all through there. We saw the majority just here and the base of that building, and then we saw all of Wat Tawet on the other side. So that's the whole video. Now I'll break out the drone and see what we see from above. Well, that'll finish up our video over here in Ayutthaya. These are two of the temples that are off the beaten path. Tourists don't come over here to these. I've been to them several times. I kind of like the styling of that main hall where the daughter of King Narai stayed. It's kind of interesting to me to see the European influence mixed in with the Thai styling in that plaster. It is still in a pretty primitive state. They're never going to do anything more than what you see. So come over here if you're in the area, but don't make a special trip unless you just really love these old temples like I do. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, and then you get to see some more stuff like this. And leave me a comment down below. Tell me what you think. And until next time, from over here in Ayutthaya, remember, life is a journey. So until next time, enjoy.